I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock. Ms. Sharon, may we please call this meeting to order?
Bublitz.
Here.
Caldwell. Here. Cook. Here. Rowley.
Present.
Taylor.
Here.
Thomas. Here. Gordinsky. Here.
If we could all stand for the rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I do not see the new township attorney present, so we will try again for an introduction of him at next month's meeting. So I will move on to the agenda review, and I will actually begin with consent agenda item F, the removal of the name Jason Van Warmer and replaced with John Rosentein. Are there any other changes?
Yes, I'd like to add 11M, approval of contractual wage increases for members of the IAFF and UAW and administrative staff increases as outlined in the 2025 budget. Our auditors had requested that originally. 11N, approval of an amendment to the 2024-2028 trash roll by removing one trash assessment for parcel 09010018100000500. The previous owners had rented this while building out, the new owners use it for storage. It should not have separate trash assessment. And 11O, approval of Police and Vandenberg recommendation to contract with Super Construction LLC for the DSMI service line material verification up to the grant reimbursement amount of $198,957.
Is there any other changes or additions to this agenda? Hearing none, I will now open up to public input on agenda items. Bangor Township does not record its meetings, but I must alert you to the fact that this meeting may or may not be recorded. Your comment may or may not be streamed or shared publicly. Your comment may or may not be altered. If you request a copy of the recording through the Freedom of Information Act, your request will be denied, as the township does not record the meetings nor have access to the recordings. I hope this does not deter your willingness to comment, but I must alert you to potential recordings. So I open up the floor for public input. All we ask is that you sign your name and come up to the podium. Public input going once. Public input going twice. Third time, we will close public input on agenda items at 6:03.
What if I think of a question a little later on?
There is a public input session at the end of the meeting.
You got to sign the paper up there too for to talk?
Yes, sir.
Is that part of the Constitution? You got to sign something to be able to talk?
Just to appear in the minutes.
Just here? Okay, good deal.
At this point, I will look for an agenda approval, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Is there any discussion? All in favor with an aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed with a nay. It is approved. I will now move on and request a consent agenda approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
We have a motion, we have support. All in favor with an aye, please. Aye. Opposed with a nay. Hearing none, that is approved. And with the, without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Adam Flory from Smith-Bogle, the township's new attorney. So, Adam, we kind of already went off script a little bit, but please take a moment and introduce yourself to the team.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate that. Good evening to everyone here. As the supervisor stated, my name is Adam Flory. I'm an attorney with Smith-Bogle. We have offices in Saginaw and Frankenmuth and Elma in Gratiot County. And it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to work with you folks here. I've had a chance to speak with the supervisor at some length, as well as Gary in the Code Enforcement Office, and as well as the DDA board. been in a couple of meetings with them. And I'm very impressed with how the operation runs. Before I represented Bangor Township, we've heard a lot of good things about the township and just about overall operations. So again, very impressed. I personally grew up in Owasso in Shiawassee County. Was born in Florida, but only spent a couple years there, and was raised in Michigan. After that, I graduated from Owasso High in 2006 and went to college and law school at Michigan State. Grew up a pretty diehard Michigan fan, but felt the need to convert once I got a couple of degrees from there. And my first job out of law school was working in Saginaw as a law clerk for one of the judges, Judge Fred Borchard, who retired. And now, second was Judge Andre Varela, who is still on the bench. And I was with them for about 2 years, and then I joined Smith Boville in May of 2017. My original connection was Judge Borchard had came from that firm when he became a judge, and so I began talking with them, and that's where I am now, of course, and I've been there ever since. So I've been there for, gosh, how long has it been now? About 8 years, 8.5 years, so it does not seem like that long at all. But when I joined Smith Boville, I started working with a gentleman named David Meyer, who was in his mid-70s and had been doing municipal law since the late 1970s. So, and Dave's just an absolute great guy. He's the kind of guy who's learned, or rather forgotten more than I'll ever learn, and been a great mentor to me. And that's sort of how I got involved in municipal law in the first place. It's one of those areas where I really hadn't heard much of it. Unfortunately, they don't make Law and Order episodes about municipal attorneys. I think it'd be probably pretty boring if they did. But Dave and I kind of hit it off, and I really enjoyed it. And that's sort of my entry to it. And I was fortunate enough to be able to contact the supervisor and Gary and be able to submit a proposal to do work with Bangor Township, and even more fortunate that we were selected. And so it's, again, an absolute honor to be able to work with you guys. A couple of just initial thoughts in terms of our work. We fully understand that municipal clients are unique clients in the sense that you folks need answers pretty rapidly. Generally, municipal issues can't wait a couple of weeks to get responded to. And so for that reason, among others, we try to be especially diligent with return calls and emails, and I always give clients my cell phone number, so you can feel free to contact me directly on that. I obviously attend a lot of township and other municipal meetings after 5 o'clock, and so no problem at all with calls on the weekends or after 5 whenever any issues come up. And thankfully, Smith Boville is a pretty full-service firm, and we're able to help with essentially any municipal issue that may come up, saving some really nuanced issues like specialized labor and other things like that. But other than that, we can provide assistance with essentially any issue that's out there. And I just got married on October 5th. I know the supervisor got married recently as well. And so with my new wife, I think I may be taking a few more vacations than I otherwise did. But my honeymoon that we took was my first vacation in like 9 years. And so I'm not out of the office too often, although again, I may be a little more now, but that'll probably be at most once a year. But so I'm almost always available, but if for some reason I'm out of the office, we have other very capable attorneys at our office too that I would always make. Never be a span when there's no one available or when you're left hanging, so to speak. So I would certainly ensure that would never happen. So with that, guys, again, it's an absolute honor to be able to meet everyone, and I thank the supervisor for arranging this so that I could put a face with the names, and I very much look forward to working with everyone. It's been a pleasure so far. And if I may, it's okay with the supervisor, I'll hand out a few cards here.
Absolutely.
And again, just encourage everyone to feel free to contact me at any time. Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Gary, you got one, right?
Pleasure.
Yes, pleasure. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tracy. Sorry. Thank you.
Adam, thank you so very much. So you are more than welcome to stick around as long as it's under the understanding we're not paying you to do so.
Absolutely, I'll stop the meter. Thank you, sir. Pleasure to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on, we'll now go to the engineering report. Spicer's is working right now currently on both our Killarney sewer project that we discussed previously, and also working with the building official on some projects at the Township Hall as far as the storage issues that we have over there and becoming ADA compliant with the restroom. So we hope to have more information on that very, very soon. Moving forward into pending business, may we start out with the chief's report. Chief Lohner, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. During the month of November, the fire department responded to 223 requests for service, which brings our year-to-date total to 2,363 calls, which is 37 calls above the same reporting period from 23. Also last month, we had 19 overlapping incidents, which accounted for about 16% of the call volume. EMS was the biggest calls for service. And quickly moving on, tonight, as was previously mentioned, Sergeant Sturm is retiring after 35 years of exemplary service to the township. His absence will definitely be felt. With that being said, we offer our congratulations to Scott. And that's all I have for this month.
Is there any questions?
How many EMS calls were there? I thought it was the most, but how many?
It usually accounts for about 85% of the call volume.
Or more? Yeah, okay.
What I would recommend, if anybody has any questions for the fire chief, we would love to have as many visitors as possible over at the fire department. He can answer any questions that you may have. Chief, I do have just one, sir. We have mutual aid agreements with all the surrounding communities and an automatic aid with the city of Bay City.
Correct.
Most importantly, with the automatic aid in the city of Bay City, that's not putting additional stress or any issues on the resources that we have currently. Is that correct?
No, well, it actually benefits us because we get resources from them and we infrastructure.
Very good, thank you. I knew that that's a popular topic right now, so I just wanted to touch upon that. Any other questions?
Do we need more EMS?
Thank you very much.
Do you think we need more EMS?
If we can move on to committee, and first
You think
off,
we need
folks,
more
there will
EMS?
be an opportunity for public input at the end of the meeting. Also with public input, that is your opportunity to speak to this board. It's not a question back and forth period, of which we would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, either after the meeting or during business hours.
considering more
But this
EMS?
particular opportunity is
We'll
where
make it easy,
questions
yes
are
or no.
usually not answered. So, sir, I do hear you.
Are we
I'd be more
considering
than
more
happy
EMS?
to answer your questions after the meeting, or we can do it during regular business hours, so thank you.
We wasted more time
Moving
talking
on
than
to
I was
committee and
doing.
commission reports, may we start out with the zoning board of appeals, trustee Thomas.
Since I wasn't formally the liaison for the November meeting, and there is no December meeting, I have no report.
Well, thank you, that was very concise, thank you. We will move on to the planning commission, trustee Taylor.
Thank you. We met on November 18th. There was one site plan approval for Mumford Construction at property 4133 North Euclid. For those of you who remember, it used to roller skate around this circle while listening to very loud music. At one time, it was the roller skating rink. It is now going to be an automotive maintenance service garage. Great Lakes Motor Shop is moving there. So excited to have them there. And we did our final zoning ordinance reviews at the public hearing for 12/18 of 24. And that is all we did. Next meeting, December 18th.
Are there any questions?
Talking about Metro State.
It's no longer going to be, I asked if they still have the ball, and they said maybe for a little while, but they're going to take it.
There will be an opportunity for the public to buy the ball, the rink, the rental skates, all of that, where the money will go to charities, so expect that announcement coming out later on this month. But exciting growth for the township, and so that's good stuff. Trustee Taylor, thank you so much. Moving on, DPW committee, Madam Treasurer.
The DPW met on November 20th at 8:30 a.m.
It was a meeting with representatives from the water department to discuss water and sewer funds, and so later on in the meeting we have the resolution for some slight increases to water fund. The sewer fund didn't need any increases this time. They also brought up that lift station number 7 is going to need to be rehabbed in the next year or two. Again, our sewer fund has a balance to support that based on an informal estimate, so we asked them to come back with a more formal estimate to present to the board, and so once we have that, we'll be bringing that to the board. That's it.
Are there any questions? Madam Treasurer, thank you. Moving on, Parks and Recreation, Trustee Cook.
We're working on a possibility of a Parks and Rec committee to get a few things done in the township. I don't have a lot more details to share, but I will do so when they come up.
Outstanding. Any questions? Good, thank you. And lastly, the Fire Department Infrastructure Committee, Madam Treasurer.
Nothing since the last time. We're still waiting on some of the plans, which they were thinking probably towards the end of January. So, we have those.
Exciting stuff. Any questions? Thank you. We'll move on to board reports. We'll start out with the supervisor's report. Knowing we have a very large agenda and a very large retirement recognition, afterwards I'm going to keep this as quickly as I can. Knowing full well we're going to be voting on wages and budgets this evening, there's some questions about if certain members of the board should abstain from voting due to a conflict of interest. The legal opinion, and there's been a few of them, is that we are not to abstain, as we're voting on the salary of the position, not for the individual. Also, having all the trustees abstain when we talk about the trustees' salary, it would cause us to no longer have a quorum. Lastly, even if one were to abstain from the vote on a salary, they would have to vote on the budget as a whole, including specific line items for each office, and would exclude every single member of the board from the ability to vote. So in short, we cannot abstain from voting on the salaries of elected officials. So I wanted to bring that out in case there was any questions. Also, during the budget workshop sessions that we had, I described the support that we give to Bangor Township Recreation through the school system. Today I want to update you on what the 2024 contribution will go towards, and this is from the athletic director, Zachary Zazula. So this money would be divided up through Bangor Recreation for the following: to help provide scholarships to youth who cannot afford the youth programs, to help provide equipment for youth programs, to help provide facilities for youth programs, to help maintain access to families for youth programs, helping upgrade systems and organizational structures, and lastly, running coaching clinics for youth coaches. So unless there are any objections, I would like to fill out a purchase order for $5,000 for the 2024 year to Bangor Township Schools Attention Recreation Program. Thank you very much. Lastly, I was in Lansing last week for the MTA Board of Directors meeting. I'll give you a much more detailed briefing of that meeting at tomorrow's BCTOA meeting. But a few developments at the Capitol include, with the lame duck session, we have the return of the Axe My Tax voter initiative. The language would abolish property taxes. That has been approved. So this group has 180 days to obtain enough signatures for that to be on a ballot. So of course, should that go through, our ability to serve the people of the township would be strained tremendously, as that's where all of our revenue comes from. The lame duck session is expected to be really off the chart, but it appears that some of the previously feared bills may not have enough votes that were earlier promised to even be introduced. House Bill 5438 for the short-term rentals is expected to be pushed through. It's not perfect, but it sucks less, and it will still allow us to have local control. House Bill 6108 through 6111, this is the sand and gravel mining. These are expected to go through. And much like Public Act 233, This will allow all permitting and zoning to be done through the state. We will not have a say in what will happen with our local zoning. So this is a serious issue. Each party has their own version of a bill for road funding, but unfortunately, each of them would jeopardize House Bill 4274 through 4271, which restored revenue sharing for all townships. So it's counterproductive. So there is a big mess going on in Lansing right now. So it's buckle up, continue to look for alerts from the Michigan Township Association and the Michigan Municipal League, or your opportunity to reach out to our state representatives and let your feelings be known, or the feelings you hear from our constituents. So that is all I have for my report, unless there are any questions.
I just had one comment, especially for Trustee Caldwell and Trustee Thomas. The $5,000 that we give to the schools, the stipulation was that it has to be for kids, not for wages or anything like that. It always has to go for the kids, for something for them, just so you don't pay for salary increases or anything like that.
And to double down on that, we ask for a listing each year of exactly what they're going to be doing on that. So any other questions? Very good, thank you. We will move on to the clerk's report. Madam Clerk.
I actually have nothing to report.
Very good. Then we will move on to the treasurer's report. Madam Treasurer.
Taxes started on the 1st and they're moving along quite nicely, so that's all I had.
Been busy.
It's been busy.
All right, any questions? All right, moving on, we will go on to the trustees' report, and this month's order was selected by the deputy treasurer. We will start out with trustee Cook.
I just want to welcome her.
Good, thank you. Trustee Caldwell.
I do not have anything to report, but thanks for having me.
Very welcome. Trustee Taylor.
No report, but it is nice to see as many constituents as there are joining us. Sometimes it's an empty floor, so it's nice to have some people join us and our interest in the local politics, so welcome. All right.
Last but certainly not least, Trustee Thomas.
Nothing for tonight other than just excited to be part of this group.
Thank you, sir. We'll now move on to some budget adjustments.
Make a motion to approve the budget adjustments as presented.
Support.
Is there any discussion?
Just that we're going to start to do things a little differently instead of doing them. Normally we wait until the board check run is done, and then that leaves me whatever is left of Thursday to work on them and for Carrie to review them. It's almost impossible for me to get them to you guys prior to the board meeting. So we're going to back up a week, and we'll catch up eventually. So starting January, the budget adjustments from, if there are any, from the January board meeting aren't going to be included until February. But the reason these are so large is like I said last month, I haven't done it in 3 months. The election was just a little overwhelming. So, but we're going to, like I said, we're going to do things differently come January. And I talked to Carrie about that, and that will give her and I more time to work on them together and more time for you guys to see them. So that was all I had.
We have a motion, we have support. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Sharon, may we roll call vote this, please?
Bordinsky?
Yes.
Ruber? Yes. Thomas?
Yes.
Taylor?
Aye.
Caldwell? Yes. Cook?
Yes.
Rowley?
Aye. First off, I am going to thank you in advance, as the entire evening will be roll call votes. So thank you for bringing water and hopefully some cough drops. So I appreciate everything you're doing there. Moving on, item B, the approved current and future changes to the cost of the previously approved 2024 road projects, so long as the total change remains below $450,000 budgeted for the road improvements.
I'll make a motion to approve current and future changes for the cost of the previously approved 2024 road project, so long as the total charges remain below $450,000 that was budgeted for road improvements. One thing I want to say about this is we put, a few years ago, the way it used to work is when we would set the budget, we would have an amount, we would tell the road commission, like, this is what amount we have to work with, they would go out to bid, they'd get the estimates in. We used to have a contract we would sign with them. And that's pretty much what they would stick to, and I wouldn't have a bunch of change orders and everything. And then COVID hit and costs went through the roof, and it seemed like there's constantly change orders, and so they don't really send contracts like they used to. And so for the last year or two, we'll put money in the budget, and for like this year we approved $450,000 for the budget. The estimates came in, I think, at like $370,000. We didn't plan for anything else because we figured there'd be change orders coming. And then I'll get change orders, and they'll say, these are the last change orders, and I'll bring it to the board, and we'll approve it, and then I'll get the next month to be like, no, these are really the last change orders, and I'll bring it to the board. And then, so from now on, what I want to do is just, yes, even if the estimate comes in at whatever amount, if we've got it budgeted for 450, just approve the 450, including all change orders. Just kind of having to do it a little different than we used to do in the past. So that's why this is on there now, because this is the third time I've had to bring a change order to the board after them telling me, no, you're set to go. So I think that's just how we'll do it in the future, is even if the estimate comes in under, we'll approve future change orders so long as it stays within the budget.
Contingencies are always put into the
Yeah.
budget.
And we used
Oh,
to
we
get,
tell them the budget, our budget number?
we usually get estimates from them and then say this is what's within our budget to do, and then they'll go out to bid, and they usually come in pretty close on